Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Cinefile, the podcast celebrating cinema one film at a time. Each week, my co-host Jake Biller and I break down a movie, discussing anything from mise en scène to scenes you missed. Today, Jake and I discover the power of rock as we jam along to 2003's School of Rock. Jake, this was your choice this week, and I know you're a big fan of this film, so why don't we just jump right in? Why School of Rock?
Yes, I am a big fan of School of Rock. I saw this. I have very core memories as a child watching this. It seems like anytime we took a road trip, like we had like a portable DVD player. Like it was like a laptop, but it wasn't like a laptop. Like all it could do is play DVDs. And
Oh, I remember those. We had those.
For some reason, this was always in there. Like it just lived in our portable DVD player. And like every road trip, just like I remember my grandpa used to get us tickets on a bus trip to go up to Chicago to see the Cubs play, because me, my dad, and my grandma and grandpa were all Cubs fans. And I just remember like bringing this along and leaving this in like watching this in the charter bus on the way up. But no, this movie it's very nostalgic for me. But it's funny. It's fun. It brings me a lot of joy. I hadn't seen it in a while, and then rewatching it this time, like it still brought back that feeling of joy for me. And we chose to do it this week because, believe it or not, even though it feels like summer just started, it is back to school season.
Yeah, it
where
is.
we're at in Central Indiana, I think pretty much every kid under 18 is back in school.
Yeah,
somewhere.
they are. Which is
is
insane.
Yeah, and like college kids, like two of my cousins that are freshmen in college now, they both moved in this past weekend. So it's like, wow, it's here.
Yeah, I know. Summer used to be so much longer than it is now. And I know for me, I don't think I'd ever seen this all the way through. I know I'd seen the part where they go and wake up Dewey. Like I remember
arguably
that
the most
specifically.
like elite part.
Yeah. But I don't really think I'd ever really seen this movie. And so this was definitely my first experience watching it. And I'm really glad you enjoyed it.
Another one of these.
No, I texted you this. The second half of this movie is way better than the first half of this movie. Like the second half of this movie I liked a lot. The first half I could have gone without. And it's not that, obviously it needed setup. We needed a first act and honestly a second act in this movie. But I don't know if it was just me being cynical today or something, but I just really was just waiting for the other shoe to drop. You know, like I was waiting for him to get busted. And I also, this movie's so illegal. There's so many illegal things that happen in this movie that I like almost can't get over how illegal it is. Like by the time we're at the end, it kind of is okay that he's doing this Battle of the Bands thing, but like so many things in this movie are illegal. And if I were a parent, I texted you this. If I were a parent, I'd be so pissed. I'd be so pissed. Like, because on one sense, I could kind of see what the writer Mike White was going for in saying, you know, trying to get these kids out of their shells a little bit and discover something new, which is always a great premise, but I feel like it's not executed well. And so, you know, and I hate to rain on your parade. I really do, because I know you like this movie a lot. But I mean, you wouldn't go and see the new Mission Impossible with me, so it's fine.
I haven't seen the 9 before. Like I've never seen a Mission Impossible movie, so why am I gonna go see this one?
Because it's awesome. I saw it again last night. But yeah, so I think with this one, there are definitely some highlights for me. But overall, I wanted more.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted this discovery of some of these characters to be deeper than it was.
Okay.
But I was really vibing with the Dead Poets Society, but school like what with rock instead of Robin Williams.
This is literally
Um,
like Dead Poet Society, but make it punk rock.
yeah, I know, which I love because I love Dead Poets Society because
Of
I was in
course.
Latin for 7 years. And if Magister P ever watches this, who he has a podcast himself, but if he ever watches this, he knows how much I like love Latin. I took many years of Latin with him. He wrote Latin for Dummies, so dude's a legend. But going back to School of Rock, I think I and since you're like a fan of this
Yeah.
more than I am, I'm sure you've got some fun facts for us. But I literally, it seems like Jack Black is improving like 80% of this movie.
Because that's Jack Black.
I know he's awesome.
I mean, like the dude is just like constantly like I would love to just like hang out with Jack Black. Just because like he's one of Jack Black's one of those people that I'm just like you must be like on all the time. Like he seems like he's just like constantly on and is
Yeah,
constantly hilarious.
dude's from another planet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, like just like seeing him on like social media and like the dumb stuff he does, and then like hearing him do interviews, like he really is living on another planet. And honestly, like kudos to him because like that seems like it's really fun. It seems
Yeah.
like it seems like it's really fun to be Jack Black. Um, but no, I
That
think
dude's beard is insane.
oh
Like when
nowadays,
he
oh my
grows out a
gosh. Yeah.
like a big beard.
Yeah.
And like right during the pandemic, he started a gaming channel called Jablinski Games, and it
Yeah.
got like over 1 million subscribers within a day.
Elite. Elite.
Speaking of which, subscribe to Cinefile.
Please.
Yeah, no, he literally got like over 1 million
Wow.
subscribers. He got like a gold play button, or
Wow.
is it a platinum play button? He got like a YouTube play button within 1 day, which is wild.
If only.
But I mean, he really is, pun intended, the headliner in
Oh
this one.
yeah.
I mean,
And
this
like
is a vehicle for him.
very much so. And I didn't realize this when I like first watched this, but like obviously like he has his own band, Tenacious
Tenacious
D,
D. Mhm.
which their music is very on brand for what you think a band with Jack Black in it would be.
It's they have is it a I think it's either an album or a movie called The Pick of Destiny.
Yeah, something like that. But this movie was kind of like crafted around Jack Black. Reading up on it, it's kind of crafted around him about like he just wanted to like include like all his like favorite rock songs in this. Um which is like incredible. The fact that they're like, let's make a movie with Jack Black and oh, let's just make it all about rock and roll. And this if for fans of classic rock and like really just fans, I think, of music in general, like you will really enjoy this movie because like I was watching this with my roommate Tanner at one point, and like
Oh, what
when
did
he's
Tanner C think of this?
he liked it, I think. I don't know. We
Is he
didn't
kind of more my speed
I
when
don't
it
know.
comes
We
to this?
really didn't I don't think he enjoyed it as much as I did, but like we really didn't get into like what does it mean conversations.
Because
But
Tanner would also think it is very illegal.
100%. But like I told him I stopped it at one point and I was like, when he's like, there's like the montage and he's going like through like this flow chart of like the progression of rock and roll on the whiteboard on the blackboard. I'm like, I would love to like just can I have that? Like there has to be like I want to find a screenshot of like the whole blackboard and just like go through that because like I love classic rock, and so like that
Mhm.
just is like fascinating to me. It'd be fascinating to like see like how like it flows through different genres. Um,
That that's really interesting because I also love classic rock. But what you said about this is basically Jack Black wanting to have all of his favorite rock
yeah,
songs in a movie. That like low key finding a parallel from last week, Singing in the Rain, is like low key how Singing in the Rain even came together, right? It was they
Right.
came up with the songs first and then the narrative. And I actually think we see that a little bit here as well, where he wanted to do the songs first and then he came up with the idea of, okay, what if it's a substitute teacher that literally teaches nothing but rock?
Yeah.
And I think it's hard to determine how much time has passed
Hmm.
in this movie because I think it's 3 weeks. They made it sound like he's like, yeah, I was vacation for like 3 weeks. But it just seemed like a whole semester of him teaching them quite literally nothing but rock,
Yeah.
which I would be like, I'd be such a Miranda Cosgrove. I'd be such a Summer. I'd be like, okay, so when are we learning arithmetic? And he would have been like, it's called arithmetic. And then, yeah, so I think that's really interesting.
Yeah.
That he kind of came up with, it kind of came out of order. And I think honestly, I'm like I said, I want to love this movie as much as you do. I don't. So I am gonna be a little critical of it.
That's
And I
okay.
think that's where it struggles because
Yeah.
if you came up with the idea for School of Rock without the rock songs
Hmm.
and based it around that first, and then James Gunned your songs in there,
Yeah.
I think that would have. Oh yeah, that's a verb to James Gunn to to put in like a whole song. Yeah. I think it might have worked a little bit better.
Okay. I see that. I can understand that.
Yeah.
Um, you mentioned that this was written by Mike White, who
Mhm.
also plays Ned Schneebly. And can we just like appreciate the fact that this man like gave himself the lamest role ever? Like he literally wrote the script and said, "I'm gonna play the lamest person maybe ever." Like Ned and his girlfriend Patty, like if there's a weak point in this movie for me, it's them because I'm like Patty's always on just like this like she's just always on this like tangent of like you need to be successful and
Yeah,
stop
she's the
freeloading.
worst.
And
She's
like
the worst.
I get it because he is a hungover lazy freeloader that needs to grow up. But
Who
also at the
can
same point, like Ned is just like I have a hard time believing that relationship because Ned's just like, oh yeah, dude, like I'm a dweeb and a
Nah, he's a
pushover.
pushover.
Yeah, very much
He's a,
so.
he is and he is the correct when I throw around the word simp a lot
Yes,
in
you
many
do.
different
Yes, you
contexts.
do.
But if you looked up simp in the dictionary, a picture of Mike White as Ned, I can't even spell his last name, Sheebley, which is like actually a really funny scene in the movie where he goes, just call me Mr. S. I'm Mr. S. Which you're like, you can't spell your own roommate. I mean, that's almost as bad as me thinking Tanner and Cole were the same person for a whole semester. I didn't realize because I knew Tanner had an identical twin, but I never knew that Cole went to Purdue and not Ball State. So every time Tanner for the first semester we knew each other would like wave at me from across like McKinley, I would just kind of like wave back, but I would never talk to him because I didn't know if it was him or Cole. But Cole never went to Ball State. Um, it's like that kind of aloofness that he doesn't even know his like best friend slash roommate's name,
Yeah.
bandmate's name. Um, and yeah, I don't even know where I was going with that. Oh, I was talking about Simps. Yeah, so he very much is a simp. And it's like Patty harshes the mellow so much.
Yeah.
I'm speaking in rock terms. Patty harshes the mellow like nobody's business. She's just like the worst. Um, but also she has a point.
Yeah.
Like, is she correct? Yeah, but you don't have to be a dick about it. You
Patty
know,
Patty is the man.
Patty is the man when he goes.
Patty and
Yeah,
Principal Mullins are the man. Like
Yeah.
that.
And let's talk about Principal Mullins.
Okay.
Um, so I texted you that all I could see is Jesse.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? For those of you who don't know, this is Joan Cusack, John Cusack's sister.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she voices Jessie, the yodeling cowgirl, in the Toy Story films, and you can hear a little bit of Jessie in her voice,
Hmm.
and I couldn't separate the two the whole movie. I was just like, every time I was watching a scene with her in it, I was like, okay, where's Jessie in this? Like, and especially when she got loud, kind of near the end,
Hmm.
you really heard the Jessie come out. But how could you be so obtuse that you don't realize that this dude isn't an actual teacher?
Yeah, like
Like,
there
talk
is
about
like
simp. Is she simping for him? I mean, she's like,
they
she
were
asked him
that
to be her
desperate.
date for a thing that he had to be at anyway.
Yeah.
Like, what? But
I
yeah,
mean, she must have been like that desperate for a substitute teacher that she was just like, this guy'll do, I guess. Um,
yeah,
and like you're right. Like you sit here and think about it, like how she didn't like see through all his bullshit in like 5 seconds, like is stupid. Like she must be
yeah.
like one of those people that's so smart that they're stupid.
Because it's one thing to be charismatic,
Yeah,
but it's another thing to be charismatic and kind of know what you're talking about and BS just a little bit.
yeah.
How do you think I have a master's degree? I'm charismatic and I kind of know what I'm talking about and I BS the rest. That's why my initials are BS.
That's why you write down
But
one thing for notes for the week.
that's the note was, wow, this is me. This is me without the knowledge. Um, it's like when somebody says when I mean, this has happened to me at work before where somebody comes in off shift and is not wearing work clothes and I don't recognize them. Legit thing. Okay, legit thing. And so I'm
What?
serving. I'm like, hey, have you ever been to Flix before? And they're like, yeah, I work here. I was like, I know that. I was testing you. What's and then I like look to their right chest area to look for their name tag and I don't find it. And then I'm like, pal,
Al.
because I don't know your name. No, this has happened multiple times. And so uh yeah, I think again, I forget what I'm talking about because I'm so in the power of rock today.
The School
Um,
of Rock.
yeah. So, okay, Let's also talk about the kids.
Yes. I think the kids are like really interesting in this movie.
Okay, please
Um,
continue.
so I found out they actually like all played the instruments that they play.
Hmm.
Like none of that is dubbed from what I could find. Like they all actually play those instruments, which is like really funny.
Well, you know what's interesting too? So they can play these instruments, but Miranda Cosgrove can sing.
Yeah, she had to
Like,
take like bad singing lessons.
yeah. So it's really weird that they have somebody who, out of all of them, probably had the most high profile singing career other than Jack Black.
Yeah.
Um, and then had her not sing,
Yeah.
which I think was kind of which she was so she was kind of typecast.
Yeah.
Miranda Cosgrove was kind of typecast as a kid, in this kind of snooty,
Mhm.
smart aleck kind of character, which she was in this. Obviously, she was as Megan in Drake and Josh. And then so many memes from Drake and Josh. And then in iCarly, she kind of broke out of that mold a little bit.
Yeah.
Which I've been watching the iCarly reboot.
Is it good?
It's like low-key hilarious. Like actually, the first season's okay. The second season is genuinely funny. So far. I haven't yeah, I haven't gotten too far into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just interesting though, because I saw her in this. I'm like, okay, so she's obviously one of the main characters, probably higher on the bill, for billing. And but she didn't sing. And that was kind of unexpected for me. But no, I didn't know they actually could play these instruments.
Yeah.
That's really yeah, because that one kid on the guitar could really play.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Um, that was Zach. I think is an interesting character and like predictable. All right, I don't think any character in this movie really reinvents the wheel at
Yeah, I was
all
like,
in like their arc.
this movie doesn't break new ground
Yeah,
necessarily, which it
but
doesn't need
like
to.
I really, I really enjoyed, I really enjoy Zach in this movie and like how he comes out of his shell and like the whole like lesson about like what do you say to a bully? I don't know, man. What do you say? Step off. Step off. Step off. Step
Step off.
off.
That's what I always said to my bullies who in middle school told me that I was a nerd for wearing white crew socks every day. And,
Nice.
I still remember that too.
Oh,
So if you at home are a middle schooler, welcome, I guess, but don't be a bully.
exactly.
Don't bully people because they honestly they remember it.
They do.
I remembered it. I still remember it. I don't remember the dude's name, but I do remember that he always made fun of me every day for wearing shorts and white crew socks, which is such a I mean, he's kind of right, but
Who
and like
cares?
especially yeah, who cares? Like I was that kid that would wear cargo shorts, white crew socks, and blue Crocs to school. And that's before Crocs were like cool again. Um, and I would always wear collared shirts. And I thought that somebody that had anything on their shirt, like any sort of graphic tee, was just like a terrible person. Like, and now every like I even have this is a little different. This is Troop 133. This is my Boy Scout troop. But even today, like a lot of my shirts are graphic tees.
Yeah.
But back in that day, I thought you're so pretentious or you were like a rebel for wearing and I did not I've never been the rebel type.
No.
I'm definitely not the Empire, so I would be a rebel, but that's different. Different movie. Uh I
Anyway,
also
one
off the
other
rails podcast.
one other kid I want to talk about. Lawrence, the piano player. So the kid that plays him, oh, what's his name? I wrote it down. Robert Sy. When they like started like doing rehearsals and like very early on in this movie, he like went to the director and was like, "Hey, so like maybe I don't think I'm good for this. So like maybe you should get someone else," which is like exactly what his character is.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Like if I'm the director, like the director obviously is like, "No, like you're perfect because like you feel uncomfortable in this." But if I'm the director, I would have literally been like, find the page where Leonard goes to Jack Black and is like, I shouldn't be in the band. And he's like, no, you should because you're awesome. And also the fact that he has him play a Doors song in his audition is elite.
That is pretty elite. The Doors are a
I
great
love the
band.
Doors. As much as my mother calls it drug music, I love the Doors.
Wait, what?
Yes. Yeah. My mom.
Drug music. Music created by drugs or music that you listen to while smoking drugs?
I think she intends the latter. She means the latter. But no, I love.
She's right. No, man, I'm kidding.
I mean, it is the Doors.
When I smoke all the drugs.
Because you definitely do that.
Yeah, because yeah.
And also I have to appreciate as a bass player and someone who started playing the cello, the fact that he brings the girl up, Katie, I think's her name, and he's like, "What's the big thing you're playing?" And she was like, "The cello." And he's like, "Well, this is a bass. It's kind of like a cello, but you turn it on its side. Cello, it's a bass." And I'm like, that's actually like kind of correct. As much as I like hate that from like a classical music standpoint, like that's kind of correct.
Yeah, I knew you would like that. I knew you would like that, and that is that will be coming back around.
Okay.
Later. I'm kind of mad you mentioned it.
Back around the mountain.
Yeah. The The other thing I kind of wanted to talk about is story structure
Okay.
with this specific film, because it's I feel like it's a little bit different
Mm-hmm.
than your typical. So when we think about a movie like this, right? So the person kind of gets the gig, they fake it till they make it, everybody starts to love them, then the truth is revealed, then they're outcast, but then somehow they kind of come back and are okay. But typically, it is the main character that somehow, and that's not always the case because there are variations on it, but that somehow manages to get come back.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, that's not the case.
Okay.
The kids are the ones
Yeah.
that kind of come. But I just thought it was interesting because I was, and again, I don't know if it's because it's like gloomy outside or something. I don't even know if it's gloomy outside. I'm in the basement,
It's kind of
but
meh out.
is it kind of met out?
Clouds are rolling in.
I was like rocking. Um, gosh, delete that. Now I said delete it, so you're not gonna.
Not a chance.
Anyway, yeah, not a chance. Um, but I was watching this and I was like, okay, so I was waiting for the shoe to drop. Like I mentioned before, like when is this going to happen in the story? And I think it's interesting because I heard somewhere, I can't remember who said this, and I wish I knew this quote, but somebody said there are only like four types of stories,
Mm-hmm.
but they're just riffs and variations on that. And this one is just such a classic um, narrative
Mm-hmm.
that I kind of wanted to talk about it because even though there's like this little difference in the end, it's amazing how something that has the same narrative structure as like hundreds of other movies
Mm-hmm.
still is enjoyable to watch.
Yeah.
Even if me as somebody or Tanner as somebody that doesn't love this movie as much as you, um, it's still something that is enjoyable to watch
Mm-hmm.
nonetheless. I just think that is so interesting when we talk about story. That School of Rock is something we've seen a million times, but yet it's something we're totally willing to watch again. I mean, you said it yourself. You watched this movie like tens of times.
Yeah.
In the car, places. I mean, it lived in your portable DVD player, not even Blu-ray, DVD player.
DVD.
Could you imagine a portable VHS? Oh
That had
my
to be
God.
heavy. That had to be
It's
heavy.
just a brick. But no, I just wanted to see if you had any thoughts on story structure in this way.
I think it's interesting. I'm blanking right now. I'm trying to think of something else that has this like a very different movie that has like the same basic structure. Because you're right, like all movies are basically just kind of riffing on the same like 4 or 5 general structures. What's something else that kind of has this? Yeah, I'm blanking right now. Anyways, doesn't matter. But I think the way it's different in the end, this twist of like having the kids come back.
Ratatouille.
Yeah, Ratatouille.
So, like with Ratatouille,
Mm-hmm.
it's very similar. He's faking it till he makes it, and then like Remy,
Mm-hmm.
essentially. Then he gets found out. Then he gets outcast, and he comes back to save the restaurant, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
From Peter O'Toole, last performance. Rest in peace to a legend. We salute you, sir. Um, but so those movies are very different.
Yeah,
One's
sure.
about food, and it's in France. The other one is in some place, like American Hogwarts, something. I don't know.
American Hogwarts.
I mean, that's actually Ilvermorny. That's a whole nother discussion for another film. But
Oh
no,
my.
like they're in like a prep school. I mean,
Yeah.
that thing is. Who would want to go there?
Horace Green.
Horace
Like that,
Green. Who the hell is Horace Green?
yeah.
And why did you decide to put it in a dungeon? Like, imagine walking into a school where there's so much wood, so much mahogany that you have to change the ISO. Like you have, like it is so dark in that whole place is so boring.
Yeah.
And I mean, I and I'm not saying I went to like the best schools ever, but they weren't that dark.
Yeah.
Just if you have like listen, welcome to the lighting podcast is actually what it is. Now, if you have such dark light, you're not going to get the best performance out of students.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they're in this like medieval building, which actually isn't medieval, I know, but it's like this preparatory Xavier, Professor Xavier school.
Preparatory penitentiary.
Yeah. Oh, what's a penitentiary?
It's penitentiary.
Ah,
Jail.
I was like
You know
a
what
penitentiary.
Whatever.
That
Words are hard.
we're having a great time today.
Yeah.
We're having a great time today. But those are two very different movies with the
Yeah.
same story structure.
Right. But I think looking at this one, like the slight variation of like how the kids are the ones that kind of like really save Dewey. Like it after Dewey's found out, it is very believable that like if the kids don't come and save him, like he is the same Dewey. There's no change. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there is no change.
And honestly, like it would feel I don't think it would feel as right if it was Dewey that came back to get the kids. Does that make sense?
It doesn't seem like his character.
Yeah. And it's like because Dewey, like
He's a slacker.
They come and find him and he is passed out on the air mattress on the floor. And they have to like kick him to wake him up.
And they kick him like once or twice and he doesn't do anything.
Exactly. But it's like that's Dewey's kind of a quitter. Like he had something really cool going that like his character genuinely enjoys, and then it all got taken away from him, and now he's gonna give up again. And so like the fact that like the kids are the ones that come and save him, I think is really interesting. And I think it really like the arcs, the character arcs for the kids are somehow very blatant yet subtle at the same time in this movie.
Okay. Yeah,
like,
they're not very overbearing and in your face, but they still happen.
But like the fact that like so many of them happen, like if when I think about like the moments, like each of them, there's character moments, like it feels like a little heavy-handed, just in general.
Okay,
if that makes any sense. But like I also understand the fact of like, okay, the fact this is not a 3-hour movie because this would suck as a 3-hour movie. Like I even recognize that.
Interesting. Okay.
And so you can't take the time to like have all this, you know, small
character development.
Subtlety for like 15 kids. Like that's just not feasible in a 2-hour movie.
Well, it's funny you say that because I was actually thinking this would be an interesting kind of mini series. Like if you really took some of the themes and concepts and kind of fleshed them out more and had them address these youth's like issues. I think it could work that way, which is actually kind of ironic because this was made into a TV show. For 45 episodes, I think, with none of the cast returning. But I think that there's the potential there to really have like a grounded story in a kid having some sort of issue and then Rock kind of coming in and like saving them from that issue or helping them grow out of the issue or resolving the issue in some way, shape, or form.
Kind of like a series where like each episode, like you pass perspective. For those of you that have seen Only Murders in the Building, how that kind of passes perspective around from episode to episode. At least I know the first season does it, and I think it does it in the second season too.
I've only seen the first season, as you and I have discussed many times, and it does do that in the first season for sure.
I'm trying to remember if it does that in the second season. Anyways, it doesn't matter.
We've been trying to remember today. Like I said, it's.
But like I think it would. You're right. Is as like a mini series of like having that like almost like each kid like like establish the concept, and then like each kid like has an episode, I think would have been an interesting approach to this. But I still think, like I still think it works in its current form. Like obviously I love this movie and I wanted to do it for the podcast. So
Right.
I still think there's a lot of enjoyment there. And like there is a lot of heart in a very like non-sentimental, like rock and roll way in the third act of this movie.
Yes. And the third act of this movie, I really enjoyed. I thought it was very funny.
Mm-hmm.
When, when Roz comes in and goes, well, all your kids are missing. And I was like, this, like she just said that, like, I know I'm gonna get murdered by one of you. And it's just like, and then when he goes, look, like, I'm not a teacher, but you know, your kids have touched me, and I'm pretty sure I've touched them too. And then the parents go, what?
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what he was saying, but it
Yeah.
still is funny nonetheless. And so, like, those kind of lines
Mm-hmm.
are like actually really funny. So I really enjoyed the third act of this movie a lot more than the first and second act. And I even enjoyed the last performance. I texted you, I was like,
Yeah.
I got chills
Yeah.
with this last performance because it reminded me a lot of, in high school, I was in show choir and we did stuff like this, not Battle of the Bands. We didn't wear outfits like that. We did wear outfits and they were awesome. But where you were like waiting to find out who won. And it was just like the tension was building and the place was crowded. And then they would say, oh, so and so won. Actually, usually it was us.
Okay.
No big deal. But it just reminded me so much of that I think that also elevated that third act for me for sure.
I think the biggest thing for me on the third act that stood out in this rewatch was just like it's fun. Like you said, you got chills watching it. Like to me, it's like this is like what like fun movies are supposed to be. Like moments like this, because for is all the like craziness and like lack of, I'm going to use your word again, verisimilitude, in the first two acts leading up to this. Once you get to that last performance, like one, it's really well done.
I
Like
agree.
just as
It's a great song
yeah,
and it's performed well
yeah.
and the production value's up there for sure.
Um, but also just like knowing what it means for like all these characters to get here, like you can't help, like I couldn't help but like smile through the whole thing. And like I said, I've seen this like tens of times. I've seen this a lot. And the fact that like it still brings me that joy, um, I think is just like is a hallmark of like it's a movie that doesn't have to be that serious. And like I 100% agree with you in the shortfalls of this story, but there's just a fun quality that like once you're in it, like if you've committed to the movie and gotten to like that third act, like the payoff is just it's so worthwhile to me just for like the fun aspect of it.
Yeah, I mean it really is fun and as much as I harp on story and I can't really help it. I realize that's kind of my MO, so
Yeah.
I just kind of do it. You're absolutely right. Like it was very people just love watching performers perform. And even though this is a movie where technically performers are performing, to see it on stage and to see them just like come out and just the song, like I said, it was really great. And the performance was really great. That really made the end of the movie, despite there being no consequences
Mm-hmm.
for his actions. Like, dude literally starts an after school program, and all the parents are like, yeah, sure, we'll send him there. And obviously they can tell that there's a connection, but the dude lied,
Yeah.
has no teaching license, and lied about his job and who he was
Yeah.
for 3 weeks, and had significant control over these kids, right? That he was their chaperone, their um, teacher, and then the person that was watching them for like 3 weeks. You know, I mean, she called the cops on him.
Yeah.
Such a, I know her name is like Patty or whatever, but it should be Karen. She's an absolute Karen.
She is.
Sarah
Oh
Silverman,
my God,
who's
he's an idiot.
that quote's gonna live rent free in my mind. Is see somebody, walking down the promenade at Flicks. Oh my God, he's an idiot. No. But there are no consequences.
Right.
Which I think also makes me, there's a lack of verisimilitude there. When there's no consequences for your actions, you're either really rich or it's a movie.
Yes.
Yeah, and sometimes you get consequences for actions you didn't even do. Welcome to real life, kids. But I think that they just kind of breezed through that.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of the end.
Yeah.
It seemed quick because the movie's what, like an hour 50, hour 49.
I don't even think it's a full 2.5 or 2. Excuse me.
It's not 2 hours. It's not 2 hours. I think it's an hour 49 minutes, and obviously they wanted to keep it around there.
Yeah.
But I would have liked to have seen some resolution between him and Roz. Which I guess she got something, because that guy with a sex tattoo on his stomach, it literally said sex on it, which is like, what is his name? And what was he wearing?
What is his name?
Those aren't shoulder pads, my dude. Like, that's not what shoulder pads are.
Isn't his name like Spider or whatever?
Yeah, I think so. Wait, was that band that won his old band?
Yeah. You didn't realize that?
Look, all rockers look the same. So
just like all your coworkers when they're not in work uniform.
Yeah, they all look like, I don't know, humans. Like, I think I used the name plebeian.
Tell me you took Latin without telling me you took Latin.
Plebeian, yeah. They ain't no patrician, let me tell you.
Oh my God.
But yeah, I think I really wanted to see some resolution between him and Roz, his beautiful oozing blossom. And Wazowski.
Okay, I'm sitting here thinking about this. What if this was for the end? When Patty calls the cops, they take him to jail. But then
that's it. That's it.
Well,
that's
they take him to jail, but then what if Roz goes and bails him out? It like shows up with like the kids on the bus and is like, I'm gonna get so fired for this. But go. That
would have shown, because her character arc is so confusing. It's like it's like non-existent. It's like
pieces.
They want to start.
Yeah.
They want to start a character arc with her, and then it just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think honestly, I think that would have made the ending a little bit more interesting. Roz would have had a character arc, which I would have liked. And it still would have been that same, like, Dewey wasn't the one. He's still like, so that still would show that he still had growing to do. But
like if she caught the kids sneaking onto the bus, and then like in that moment, like they like pleaded with her, and like she like had this like light switch moment of like, it's not all about school.
Right. And all of my coworkers hate me.
Yeah. And so, and then she's like, I'm probably getting fired anyway, so then let's just go do it epically, and like goes and bail. They go like drive the school bus down to the county jail and bail Dewey out. That would have been an interesting ending.
And honestly, what would have made that as well is that the kid's plan was to go and try and bail him out of jail.
Yeah, like some like
that they were already headed to the jail, and then like, she stopped them.
I'm seeing just like the Santa Claus when the elves show up to bust Santa Claus out of jail.
No, that's a movie right there.
Yeah.
Santa Claus.
Are you kids?
Talk about a character arc.
We're elves with attitude.
Yeah, but I think you're right. I think that would have made it better. But obviously that didn't happen.
Right.
Now we can move on to Rosebud and Thorn. As always, I'm going to pass it off to you first, Jake. I'd love to hear your Rosebud and Thorn for School of Rock.
All right. So uh Rosebud and Thorn is going to be all character focused today
Okay.
because that's the memorable part for me is the characters in this movie. That's why I keep coming back to it because I enjoy the characters. Got to give a rose to Jack Black because like without him this movie is nothing.
Yeah, this movie would DOA.
I can't think of anyone else who could have done this. Can
I
you?
can't either, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Jack Black is such a different breed that it's like I don't know anybody that could do it.
I know we've kind of talked about her character is kind of meh, but I like Joan Cusack's performance. For as little as she's given, I think she makes good work out of it. And is like an interesting like adversary slash maybe love interest to Dewey.
Yeah, got to riz the Roz.
Where's the Ross? So I'm gonna give a rose to Joan Cusack and then collectively the kids because I think they really do a good job as well. And like they always say when you make films, like if you want it to go somewhat smoothly, don't work with animals and don't work with kids. And this movie works with a lot of kids. And the fact that like they were able to like get them all on track and like delivering good performances in what I consider a really good movie. I think that's a testament to them. And I think they're casted well, and I think that they fulfill for their roles. So those are my roses. I got 3 there, and then I've got 2 buds, Ned and Patty. We've been ragging on them. Ned is so. My mom and I both love the show Friends, but whenever we watch it, there's inevitably a moment when we both look at each other and say, Ross is such a dweeb. Ned makes Ross look like Superman. He is that much of a dweeb.
Yeah.
And Patty is just like you said, she's a Karen and she's terrible. My note here that I wrote is there are more caricatures more than characters. I felt very witty when I came up with that.
Yeah.
Just because like they don't feel like real people in a way. Like Ned's slightly more real than Patty is, I feel like.
Yeah, but they seem like, kind of just there to be there.
They're there to like Patty's there to hate Dewey and call the cops.
Yeah, and Ned is there to create the inciting action.
Yeah.
Like a movie.
Ned is there to be a substitute teacher that Dewey can impersonate.
Yeah.
And so I feel like those are going to be my buds there. And then I have no thorns.
Okay. For me, Rose is obviously Jack Black. I think he is great in this. He's kind of extra in a way that kind of got a little exhausting if I'm being honest, but you've got to admire the dude's tenacity. Like that kind of personality type I can only take so much of.
Yeah.
It's one of those, yes, I love that you're doing that. Why don't you just go and do that anywhere else? Anywhere else. So I really liked him in it. I did like the kids as well. But that probably is it. I think with Buds, I think the story, I really wish I could have gotten more, better crafted. And I hate to dog on this, like I said, because I know you love it so much. But
okay.
Yeah. So I would say story is a Bud for me. I think there's a lot of potential there. The Roz character is a Bud for me. There's a very little story arc. I wanted to see more from that. Um, Also, all I could hear was Jesse. And then it kept reminding me how much I love Toy Story. And I'm like, this isn't Toy Story. So and then Thorn, it's just very 2003.
I
And
will
that's
agree.
not a very enduring time period. You know, like movies from the 90s work as
Mhm.
90s films. And movies from like 2010 on have their own kind of thing going. But movies from the early 2000s, a lot of them are very similar and a lot of them are they don't hold up. It's like it's this weird it's like with fashion. So things from the 80s and 90s are kind of back in fashion now, but like nothing from early 2000s is back in fashion. And it's gonna I don't think that's gonna happen where even even like in the 2010s, like Crocs, right? And like 2010, Crocs were like huge, or around that area, and now they're back again. But it's like that gap that I think even in films, it just is not. It just doesn't hold up the
Okay.
same, and even the look of the film, whatever film they were using to shoot this on, because I don't think this was shot digitally. Uh, I don't know. It's just a little weird. So that for me always throws me off. It's even as much as I love like the Born Identity and the Born Supremacy, even the Born Ultimate, like those are great action movies, but are very early 2000s,
Yeah.
very early 2000s. So that's probably my thorn. Moving on to who we think we are. I'm actually going to start this one because
Please
we
do.
already talked about who I think you are, which is the cellist. For those of you who don't know this, when I met Jake for the first time, he had his
Oh,
bass backpack on with his what is it, a double bass?
yes.
Yeah, and that it, like was strapped on, and he's walking around. He walks like this when he does it,
Because the
and
straps aren't the right length, so if you stand straight up, it like tries to like make me fall over by hitting me in like the ankle. It's weird. Anyways,
that's
continue.
actually really funny. But he also, I found out pretty early on in our friendship that you knew Daniel, my roommate, because Daniel would play cello and you would play bass. And so those together with the fact that he goes, when he talks about, he's like, so if you just take a cello and just go like this and cello, and like, I just was so, I knew you would love that.
Yeah.
I feel like Daniel would have been like, that's not how that works. And I feel like you would have been like, that's hilarious. Also, not really the same, but hilarious. So that just cemented when that line, because I was like trying to think, I was like, am I really going to say he's Jack Black? You know, because you just, I know you love this movie. And then that line, and I was like, oh, I know who he is in this
Yeah.
movie. So that's who I think you are. Now we'll pass it off. Who do you think I am?
You've kind of hinted at who I think you are. You are Summer Hathaway, Miranda Cosgrove's character through and through, because you specifically the scene where she's like, "I can go through the schedule if you want," and I'm like, "That's Ben. Like he would take over, and like you would sense the like lack of leadership and like
Mm,
want to fill that void, even though like at like 10 years old, like you're grossly underqualified to teach a class. Like you would like need that structure that's been
uh-huh.
established, that you would be like, this is what we do. This is how things run here. I know you're new.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
also be
Yeah.
the one to be like, my parents are not paying like $10,000 a year for me to have a recess all the time.
And honestly, when I was that age, dead ringer.
Yeah.
Like for real. Like
I kind of knew it. I kind of had a feeling.
yeah. I mean, nowadays I'm obviously much more chill. Um, I'm chilling like a villain.
It's my
But
line.
I back then, no, sir. That was very much I was a stick in the mud for sure. Not even like a good stick, like a curved stick, like like a stick that was almost broken. Stick in the mud. Moving on to final thoughts. Jake, I'd love to hear your final thoughts on School of Rock.
Final thoughts. I went into this movie. I picked it because I enjoy this movie. I hadn't seen it in a while, and I still enjoy this movie. It's fun. It's entertaining. Yeah, the story's kind of out there. If you're able to put that aside and enjoy the performances, if you enjoy classic rock, I would think you would really enjoy this movie. And like teaching like people to appreciate classic rock. I think this movie's for you. And if you're watching the movie and you're struggling to get through the first two acts, like wait till the performance at the end. I think you'll really enjoy it. It'll at least bring a small smile to your face. If not a big glowing grin. So I love this movie. It's not for everyone. I can understand where you're coming from with the reasons you don't like it as much, and that's okay.
Yeah, I think for me, final thoughts. This wouldn't be a film that I'd be like, oh, you need to see this movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think it'd be one where, depending on the kind of person, I would recommend it, but it's something that I wanted more from. And I think it has the potential as a story to be really, really interesting. And I feel like they just didn't execute in the way in which I would have liked. So it's not a bad movie, but it's also not a great movie. You know, it's kind of one of those, you watch it once and you understand and you respect the people that really love it, but it's just not for you. And that's okay, because all film is subjective. And we talk about that here on the pod all the time. But yeah, so is it something that I'd recommend? Well, like Jake said, if you like music, if you like rock, if you like Jack Black, all of those are there. If you like Jessie from Toy Story, probably don't watch this because you just keep wanting to see her be Jessie. But yeah, so those are our final thoughts. The real question is for you folks at home, what do you think of School of Rock? Is it enduring? Do you like it like Jake does? Or maybe you're not a huge fan of it like me. Let us know your thoughts, your rosebud and thorn, your whole review down in the comments below. If you like this video, hit the like button and hit the subscribe button, ring that bell to get all notifications on upcoming content. We got plenty of more things to come in the coming weeks. I know I'm going to see probably both Gran Turismo and Blue Beetle this month. I don't know if Jake will join me. We will talk about that. But make sure to follow us on Threads. Follow Jake and I on Instagram. Follow Jake and the Cinefile on X. So dumb.
I still call it Twitter. I'm still calling it Twitter.
Yeah.
And as you
it's
notice,
been around since 2012.
As you can see, there's still the bluebird because I deny that Elon Musk is ruining this thing.
Yeah, I noticed that too last week when I was watching it.
I'm not changing it.
I noticed. I was like, he's got the Twitter thing, and then I kind of was like, I kind of want him to change it to X because that's what it's called now. And then it's like, the X is so stupid. Like, hey, I don't know if this is real or not, but I think I saw that The Simpsons predicted this.
Of course they did.
Yeah, of course they predict freaking everything.
They got the crystal ball, man.
Crystal ball, man.
You know what I mean. They have the crystal ball, comma, man.
Oh. Well, for Jake Miller, for Jake Miller, I'm Ben Sparrow. Thanks so much for watching the Cinefile. Make sure to like and subscribe once again. That really helps our analytics. And until next week, cut.